Okay, Emma, so you've got another set of essays for us. Great. Nice to see you working really hard and consistently and doing everything you're supposed to do. So let's take a look. Let's see what you said. Okay, the topic today is about locally produced food, whether we should only eat that or whether we should eat other foods as well. Okay, let's see what you said. Experts throughout both the developing and developed world have debated whether globalization of food production and consumption is environmentally and economically beneficial. This essay will defend, no CED, it in both ways, using examples from Thailand Agriculture Bureau and the U.S. carbon footprint. All right, this is awkward here. This essay will defend it in both ways. That doesn't make sense. So what you want to say is that this essay will examine both sides, okay? But then you also, look, they ask you really clearly here to what extent you agree or disagree. So you have to say in your introduction to what extent you agree or disagree. And it's not because I say that you have to, but if you look at the band descriptors for task 2, they say that you have to have a clear position throughout your essay. And what does throughout your essay mean? It means from the beginning to the end of the essay. How can your position be clear from the beginning to the end? If you put your position in the introduction. Okay? So, what am I trying to tell you? First of all, grammatically, this is a little funny. And you also have to say to what extent you actually support one aspect or the other. So this essay will this essay will analyze both viewpoints, asserting that XYZ is more appropriate, using examples from Thailand Agriculture Bureau and this, okay? All right, so let's move on. There is ample evidence that food production globalization has made great contributions to economies. The central reason behind this is twofold. Two folds is not what you mean here. That's as if you're folding something twice. This is not what you mean. You want twofold, one word, no S. So the central reason behind this is twofold, comma. First, the comma, in developed countries, urbanization has seen vast expanses of farmland or vast acres of farmland transformed into schools, factories, hospitals, roads, commercial areas, and office buildings. And this has boosted other industries apart from the farming industry. And these industries made up much bigger portions of the GDP. Okay, lots of and here, so it's a super long sentence. Look at this. It starts here, goes here, and then finally ends here. And look at all the ands, okay? Check it out. One and, two and, all right, only two ands. But still, for me, it's at least one too many ands. So you should have done a couple of things. You should have either broken it up into two sentences or used some other form of connection to make it flow a little more fluently. Okay, let's move on. Secondly, the food production globalization. I don't know why you keep calling it food production globalization. I think you've now said that 3 times. Look, globalization of food production, globalization, and then here again, food production globalization. It's not really a very commonly used collocation. It's not something that people will say, oh, yeah, food production globalization. I know what she means. So, I don't know. I want you to try to use a different expression when you're trying to explain this, okay? So, secondly, eating food that is not locally produced also allows developing countries to have constant income by exporting their agricultural products. The recent 5-year report of Agriculture Bureau of Thailand, the recent report from the Agriculture Bureau of Thailand has shown that the rice export profits have been constantly growing because of the large need from countries like China, USA, and New Zealand. Therefore, it is conclusively clear that to move food growth, It is conclusively clear that moving food growth to allocated areas is an economic development. That makes no sense. I don't know what that means, to move food growth to allocated areas. I tried to fix it, but I really was just not able to. Okay, so let's keep going. Many debate that although it is an economic improvement, it causes... All right, now look at this. You've switched paragraphs. All right, it's a brand new paragraph. It's a new start. So you're starting it, though, with two its. And at this point, you've had so many other nouns in the previous paragraph that it's impossible to understand what that it refers to. Okay, so I think what you're trying to say is many debate that although food exports are an economic improvement, they cause harmful effects on our environment. They argue that there are considerable carbon dioxide emissions during food transportation. These emissions are from planes, boats, trains, and vehicles. Actually, according to the U.S. Food's Carbon Footprint Report last year, no. The U.S. Food Carbon Footprint Report, maybe, okay. 83% of the food carbon footprint results, footprints result from food production, and only 11% from transportation. So, the food miles are only a small part of a very large food emissions story. Therefore, it is my firm conviction that what we eat is generally more important than where it comes from, as is how much we waste. Or why are you mentioning waste now? You never mention it anywhere else. So why are you suddenly introducing this new aspect? I don't think that's a good idea. If you're going to start developing a new aspect, then develop it and develop it fully. Don't just mention it and then just walk away, okay? All right, let's keep going. From the arguments and examples given, I believe that although food miles are not that environmentally friendly, get rid of the but. There are minor differences we can make by eating local food. It is predicted that the food trade will continue expanding for the economic benefit. Okay, so I don't have a whole lot to say about this, but I do have quite a few things to say about this paragraph. I found it a little problematic for a number of reasons. Let me see. Okay, here's what happened. You said that transporting food, even though, yes, it's great, it creates emissions, okay? Carbon dioxide emissions, and that's something that affects the environment. And then this was awkward. These emissions are from planes, boats, and print. Okay, it was just a very awkward sentence. It was not joined to anything else appropriately. It was not extended appropriately. And then this actually bothered me even more. It's not an appropriate linker here. So you had here three sentences that felt really disjointed from each other and not closely linked, not carefully linked. So it had some problems. So if I were going to correct this, let me tell you what I would say. Many debate that although the use of non-local food is an economic improvement, it causes harmful effects to our environment. The argument is that there are considerable carbon dioxide emissions during food transportation from the planes, boats, trains, and vehicles used to transport the goods. In fact, however, according to the U.S. Food Carbon Footprint Report last year, 83% of the food carbon footprints resulted from food production, and only 11% was from transportation. Therefore, food miles are only a small part of a very large food emission story. Okay? Subsequently, what we eat is more important than the means by which it transports. And I don't really know how much, even if you said that, which at least makes more sense, I don't know how true that is necessarily. But okay. Okay, so let me tell you a couple of things that I want to say about this essay. It says, it would be better for the environment and economy if people only ate local food produced by farmers. One way that people have been talking about this is in one paragraph they talk about the environment, and then in another paragraph they talk about the economy. It is possible that you could support yes, local food for the economy, yes, local food for the environment. It is possible that you could say no for the environment, no for the economy. It's also possible that you could say yes for one, but not for the other. And to be honest with you, I think those are some of the really successful essays. Some of the ones that are most convincing, that are most well developed are those. Okay? This essay confused me in a lot of different ways. I felt it was disjointed. I felt like there were some problems as far as the coherence and cohesion is concerned. So I want you to look at it again to kind of link everything together better. I don't know if we went over this. Let me read it one more time. From the arguments and examples given, I believe that although food miles are not that environmentally friendly, there are minor differences we can meet by eating local food. It is predicted that food trade will continue expanding for the economic benefits. Okay, so if I understood this conclusion correctly, you're saying that, yeah, making food travel is maybe not the best thing, but eating local food is not going to save our environment that much. That's what I think you're trying to say. And that's fine, but you didn't do a great job of making it super clear. In fact, I had to read that conclusion a couple of times to understand it. First of all, this was not clearly stated enough for me. I wanted you to state it more clearly. But the differences that can be made by eating local food are only minor. All right, so rephrasing this and using a different syntax would really draw the reader's attention to the fact that, you know what, local food is not going to save us, okay? That would have been good. Now, you did briefly touch upon this about food miles not being super environmentally friendly. You talked about it there. Okay, it's fine. I've really gone into so much detail about this. I want to move on to your task one. As you can see, for me to spend so much time on this, it is a little problematic, but it's fine. It's one of those essays that I have to work through. Not that it's successful, but I do have to work through it. And sometimes that's a problem too, because the examiner reading your essay doesn't want to work through your essay. The examiner wants it to be straightforward and clear, and that's your goal. You don't want an examiner to spend 12 minutes and 40 seconds correcting one essay. The examiner doesn't want to do that. It should be clear within the first few minutes. That's your goal. Okay, so let's look at your second one. Chips manufactured in France. Let's see. The diagram shows the monthly sales by Intel and AMD in 2017. Overall, Intel and AMD, careful, both dominated the market. No, you cannot use present perfect here. The whole period is in the past, so there should be no reference to the present. Absolutely no present perfect here, only past tense. So they both dominated the market in different months of the year. All right, let's try this again. Overall, while Intel and AMD both dominated the market in different months of the year, Intel's sales are stabler and bigger than AMD's sales. I hate the word bigger in IELTS. I have to tell you that. There are certain words I never want to see. I never want to see big, small, nice, good, bad. Okay? Just keep that in mind. In detail, Intel's sales began, 2 times as high as AMD's. Despite a 30,000 increase, Intel was exceeded by AMD in the subsequent month because AMD's sales more than quadrupled. You know what? I have no idea what these numbers are. I don't have a frame of reference. I don't know where Intel started. I don't know where AMD started. So if I were to sit here without looking at the graph and trying to plot out these figures, I would not be able to. I could not draw this. I can't even visualize it. Okay. In March, capital M, the number of AMD sales, AMD, dropped to below 50,000. Okay, fine. Although in April there is a slight increase, AMD's sales continued to decrease to 0 in June, when Intel's sales reached their highest point. What's that figure? I need to know. It's the highest point in the entire chart. I should be aware of it. In the next month, Intel crashed. It did? In July? Oh, yes, it did. Okay. While AMD's sales surged to over 100,000, which is the second greatest sale of AMD throughout the year. From August and October, do you mean from August to October? The sales of Intel stabilized at around 70,000 when AMD's sales in these months are similarly high at 45, 90, and 80,000 respectively. In the last 2 months, Intel showed a dominant advantage with sales over 100,000 each month, when AMD's sales add up number, I don't know what that means, add up number, of both months. I don't know what you mean. Total number. Maybe that's what you mean. When AMD's sales total number from both months is still under 50,000. Okay. So there is some awkwardness of your expression here. There is some confusion, and there are some areas where you should have been illustrating different data than you actually did. But by and large, I got through it. I understood it. Like I said, for me, in these chronological charts, it's super important to know the beginning data, the end data, and then the key data in the middle. Okay? Think of these years as a story. So you should know the beginning of the story, the end of the story, and the most important points throughout the story. Keep that in mind, okay? Go ahead and correct these, return them back corrected, and add to your error correction list. And of course, another set of essays. Looking forward to it. Good luck.